Piazza San Marco, St. Mark's Square if you're feeling less Italian, is Venice's living room, its beating heart, and occasionally its wading pool when the Acqua Alta decides to visit. It's the one place in Venice where you'll want to linger, not just for the history but for the sheer magic of it all. Let's take a closer look at the square that Napoleon once called the finest drawing room in Europe. And really, who are we to argue with Napoleon? First up, we've got St. Mark's Basilica, the crown jewel of Piazza San Marco. This Byzantine beauty was built to house the relics of St. Mark, yes, actual St. Mark. And let me tell you, the Venetians spared no expense. We're talking gold mosaics that would make King Midas blush, onion domes that seem to defy gravity, and a history that's as colourful as the mosaics themselves. Stolen from Byzantium? Yep, that happened. But hey, it's Venice. A little bit of audacity goes a long way, right? Stepping inside St. Mark's Basilica is like stepping into a jewellery box designed by angels. Over 8,000 square meters of shimmering gold mosaics cover practically every inch of the walls and ceilings. You'll find scenes from the Bible, portraits of saints looking appropriately saintly, and then there are those mosaics that just scream Byzantine flair. You'll know them when you see them. Now, a word to the wise. Unless you enjoy being shoulder to shoulder with a few hundred of your closest strangers, try to visit early in the morning or later in the evening. Trust me, experiencing the spiritual serenity of this place is a lot harder when you're dodging selfie sticks. Right next door to the Basilica, you'll find St. Mark's Campanile, the iconic bell tower that stands like a sentinel over the piazza. This towering structure clocks in at 98.6 meters high. That's like stacking 32 gondolas on top of each other. Built in the 12th century, it stood tall for centuries until, well, it didn't. In 1902, the Campanile decided it needed a little lie down and promptly collapsed. Today, you can take an elevator to the top for breathtaking panoramic views of the city, the lagoon, and of course the pigeons. Speaking of pigeons, you can't talk about Piazza San Marco without mentioning the pigeons. Ah, the pigeons. Those feathered friends who are as much a part of the piazza's fabric as the marble itself. Now, some people might call them flying rats, but I prefer to think of them as, well, flying pigeons. Feeding them used to be a must-do tourist activity, but these days it's strictly verboten. Of course, no one's told the pigeons that, so they'll still happily perch on your head or try to steal your gelato if you're not careful. Now, let's talk about those elegant buildings flanking the piazza. Those, my friends, are the Procuratia, once home to Venice's high-ranking officials known as procurators. These guys were like the VIPs of Venice, and their offices were the place to be seen, if you were a powerful merchant, or a wealthy nobleman, that is. Today, the Procuratiae have traded political power for something equally delightful. Cafes, museums and shops selling everything from Murano glass to those little gondola magnets your aunt loves to collect. And here's a fun fact. The design of these arcades actually inspired St. Peter's Square in Rome. Just goes to show Venice doesn't follow trends, it sets them. And speaking of cafes, let's talk about the granddaddy of them all, Café Florian. Established in 1720, this isn't just a cafe, it's a time capsule. We're talking marble tables, velvet chairs, and waiters in waistcoats who look like they've been serving espresso since Casanova was a regular. Now, I'll be honest, a cup of coffee here will cost you about as much as a gondola ride, but consider it a cover charge for sitting in history's most exclusive coffee clatch. As the sun begins to set, Piazza San Marco undergoes a magical transformation. The lights of the cafes twinkle, the air cools, and the sound of music fills the square. Café Florian, not to be outdone by its neighbour Gran Café Quadri, brings out its own orchestra, and the two engage in what can only be described as the most civilized and expensive battle of the bands you'll ever witness. Imagine you're sipping on a Bellini, the strains of Vivaldi waft through the air, and you're surrounded by the beauty of Venice. And finally, no visit to Piazza San Marco would be complete without a visit to the Doge's Palace. This Gothic masterpiece, with its intricate facade and imposing presence, was once the beating heart of the Venetian Republic. Inside, you'll find a labyrinth of grand halls adorned with masterpieces of Renaissance art, gilded ceilings that'll make your jaw drop, and the infamous Bridge of Sighs. Now, despite its romantic-sounding name, the Bridge of Sighs was actually where prisoners got their last glimpse of freedom before being led down to the dungeons. And then there's the view from the edge of the square. Gondolas bobbing in the lagoon. San Giorgio Maggiore shimmering across the water, and tourists snapping photos like their lives depend on it. It's the kind of scene that makes you stop, breathe, and think, wow, this place really is as magical as the postcards. Piazza San Marco isn't just Venice's beating heart, it's a living, breathing work of art. Because in Venice, magic isn't just something you see, it's something you feel. Experience the magic of Piazza San Marco. Plan your journey today.